Here we go. Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to our meeting tonight.
All 13 of us?
We have 3 counselors that have excused absence, and so we just barely have a quorum. And so we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You know, we did all this out together that much. All these years. I keep forgetting 2 of them.
Shuffle these little kids.
Okay, I don't know how we're going to get along without Keith and Hugh doing the consent calendar. We have, everybody knows the routine, A through H. If there's something you'd like to discuss further, let me know. If not, I need a motion to approve them.
I move to approve the consent calendar A through H.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Councilmember Cornegie and a second by Councilmember Kinzer to approve the consent calendar A through H. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay, passes. Now we are going to public comment, and this is something if you want to talk about, come on up. You got all the time you want.
So, for those of you who don't recognize, that's Ann Sweeney.
Yeah.
So there's a special assistant to the Director of Enterprise Services. So here for the next item on the agenda, our Northern State Project.
Okay, we will go.
She's taken up residence, I think, in Skagit County now.
I'm glad she's here. We got someone. This is really a unique night. Okay, we will go to...
what's his name that's always here?
Mine's the old kind. Stacy or
Cecil?
Cecil. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, our guy from up on SR9.
Yeah.
Must be the rain. Okay, we will go to item 5. This is setting a date for the public meeting for the city to move forward the request to annex Northern State Campus. And I assume this is Aaron. Or John.
This is just the beginning of the process. Our Northern State group continues to meet furiously. Lots of meetings this week. Yesterday we had our coordinating meeting at lunch, and then a brief meeting with the governor in the evening. Today the consultant team with all the stakeholders met virtually all day touring the site, kind of getting on board with a plan of action. And of course this meeting tonight, tomorrow morning we have our bi-weekly meeting with Peter and Susan Janicki to talk about the status at their office, and then on Friday at 10 o'clock, we're having a public meeting here in this building that DES is hosting. It's a continuation of the adaptive reuse process. So anybody who's interested may want to come to that. So the item on your agenda for tonight is the DES's March 19 letter, which was in response to the February 27 action of the port, the city, and the county requesting that DES initiate the annexation process for the state-owned parcels. So they've provided us a letter indicating that they intend to move forward.
They just have this one.
And under that process, you need to set a meeting to publicly discuss the request and then determine whether you'd like to move forward or not. So it's not an action meeting, it's more of a preliminary intent on your side too. And what we're recommending is that you set a date of April 8th, which is our next regular council meeting, for that public meeting. And at that point, we'll have a little more details on the annexation, although probably not much more than we've already talked about at prior meetings. And we'd be requesting that you move forward with the annexation process. That allows us to get a notice of intent off to the Boundary Review Board. It establishes the area that's going to be under consideration for annexation. We can begin to work with the state on any annexation agreement that might need to happen and just get the ball rolling. So tonight we're just looking for a motion to set the date of April 8th for the public meeting to make that decision to move forward or not.
I make a motion that we set April 8th as a public meeting for the annexation of Northern State.
Second.
Is that close enough?
Perfect. Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Loy, second by Councilmember Lemley, to set April 8th for a public meeting, decide to move forward with the annexation request of Northern State. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Passes unanimously.
Will that be in conjunction with the meeting or prior
Yes.
to?
Same
or
thing.
It'll
we'll
just
go
be,
through-
it'll be part of the council meeting. We'll also have as a separate agenda item on your April 8th calendar the essentially the kickoff to the planned action process. So Jana and John have been working on a resolution that just sort of outlines what we're anticipating for the planned action, and we'll present that for your action. That essentially directs staff to kind of get that ball rolling along with the consultant team.
And that's our second meeting, but first meeting here.
Yeah, our first
We're
regular
going to have a
meeting.
workshop
Yeah.
next Wednesday.
Yeah, on our April Fool's Day meeting, we have a fairly light agenda. We're anticipating talking about every other week garbage, kind of getting a sense of the council in terms of questions you'd like asked of our pilot project participants. I'm going to get those asked in the month of April and then have a substantive discussion at the May work session. We're going to need action on that whole issue of every other week garbage service by your first meeting in June if we're going to move forward. So, anyway, a preview of April Fool's Day.
Okay, we will go to item 6, buildable land analysis consultant selection. This would be John.
Good evening. So on Monday, I saw most of you as I dropped off some late materials for professional services agreement for for ED Hovey and Company to do a buildable lands analysis as required by the Skagit County rules for evaluating our urban growth area sizing. And staff had put together a request for qualifications, put that notice out. We got 10 respondents, all very good respondents, various price quotes. Ultimately, the E.D. Hogan Company was selected by staff after reviewing their history. They've performed very similar buildable lands analyses for various jurisdictions within Skagit County, has worked with Skagit County on other population data. They've worked with EDASC in the past, and is very good references. They were able to come in at our budget, which the council had granted $15,000 in the planning budget for this study, and so everything seems to be just right for this. In fact, Hovey was the company that did the buildable lands analysis for Mount Vernon that we are using as a template. So it should be quite easy for this company and Eric Hovey in particular to do the analysis and get this done for us in a very timely manner, which is a short time frame. We need to have this done by June, at least in draft form, before we can determine if there needs to be any adjustments to the methodology or any of the assumptions in that study. So the final product probably will still be kicking around until August, maybe even September for the final touches, but we hope to have a good draft done by June and certainly by July, something really solid that we can begin doing some policy analysis based on. Like I said, there's a short time frame, so staff was hoping to get an action on this so the consultant can get started right away, as he's indicated that he is able to do.
This doesn't fall under our 2-reading rule?
If you want it to, you can,
Yeah.
but it's probably time sensitive. At least that's what, according to what John said.
I don't get why we've been hearing about it for a long time, and then all of a sudden we got to do it instantly and waive our 2 reading rules. So it's not that big a deal, but we've been talking about it for a long time.
Well, once we got it in the budget, and then just at the beginning of the year, the county sprang a surprise on us and said that they want us to have this done by June. So if we need to make any changes to our urban growth area, we need to have the buildable lands analysis done and all the public hearings process done to determine which lands might need to be included in our urban growth area. And that's usually a year-long process, and they want this done by July so they can then work on it
Would one
at
week
their leisure.
Would 1 week make this a first reading, and then our next workshop could be our second, which is next Wednesday? Would that work, John? Because I like the 2 reading rule. 1 week?
It's entirely up to the council and the mayor, of course.
Give us a chance to review it.
So-
We'll get some perspective from the other 3.
Yeah, and then you'd have the other. So why don't we just schedule it for the next workshop for the second reading? Well, because it's light already, next Wednesday, and then we can go if the council wants to do it.
And you know, this is just a contract award within budget. I mean, normally this would be a consent item. It's only because it was planning that I put it as an agenda item. So, I mean, it's your pleasure. We can add it to the agenda again, but it's, at least from my review, it would be, if it was under 10,000, I would have signed it. It's because it's 15,000 that it's at your desk.
Have you worked with this firm before?
I haven't worked with them directly. Hovey does work for the EDASC, and so the most recent reports of his that I've seen dealt with the possible bottling plant and also the racetrack
I might have done Scott,
hotel.
too.
He does
I've
quite a
heard
bit
of
of work. I've heard from other people who've used them that they're happy with them. The key for us is we did not budget what, comparable cities normally would budget to do this. So having a firm who seems to be willing to do it. Jen has used them over in Mount Vernon before and indicated that they honored their budgets on projects that she used them with. And obviously we're more budget sensitive than some folks. So
Has there been an estimate of his services?
yeah, 15,000 is the number.
That's where it's at? Okay.
Yeah, and so the contract's written with a do not exceed 15.
So it's a T&M contract.
Yeah, essentially, it is a time and materials with a do not exceed 15. Now, as you were in the business, that means it's $15,000 contract.
Well,
or 14,950.
if I'm not in the job, it's about 22.
Well, there's no way to do that in this particular contract, but it's not a lump sum contract, so they are going to track time and bill monthly for the performance, but there's a cap. So again, it's an ordinance. I know you really like to see those twice. I guess I hadn't appreciated that a contract award that's within budget is something that you would normally want to see twice. You actually approved a $460,000 expenditure on your consent calendar.
What's 1 week?
Again, the reason why this wasn't there is just because planning can be kind of a hot button item, and it was late materials. So, it's up to your pleasure.
Personally, I'm okay with it, except for the fact that, we're missing 3.
No.
What's the concern?
Just because we're missing quite a few council members that I don't know if they might have something to say, but I'm okay with voting on it tonight, but, it's...
I don't object to it either, other than either we have a 2-meeting rule or we don't.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have a heart attack if we do it.
Yeah, it's not an ordinance, it's just a contract award, it's within budget.
But is it time sensitive for you, John?
Yeah, it is. That was the reason that he ran out and delivered it to you earlier in the week. And, again, if we had all the materials, it would have been on your consent calendar. So...
I got no problem. If
I don't
nobody
think
else
the
does.
other guys are going to complain, so, Mr. Mayor, I make the motion that have you and the council approve the professional services agreement with E.D. Hovey and Company for a buildable lands analysis not to exceed $15,000.
Second.
So we have a motion by Councilmember Lemley, a second by Councilmember Cornegay to authorize the mayor to execute the attached agreement with Hovey not to exceed $15,000. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and against, pass unanimous. I just want to say, I understand this is an ordinance, but where are we going to start drawing the line? I mean, I'm a proponent of the two-reading rule. And if, like Kevin said, if we knew we had this coming, I mean, there's a lot of times where staff will have something, and all of a sudden they bring it to us, and they go, it's got to be passed today, when they've been sitting on it for 3 months. And then you put the council, where they're on the gun. And I'm a big proponent of that two-reading rule. That gives you time to go think about it. And, and I understand there's some contracts in here that maybe we should have had looked at them too. And then we can think about it. Government doesn't have to go fast. So, all right.
But can I do have one question on the bill that I'd like to find out after with the big buildable analysis. Remember those people that came in and said they were looking at 15 acres and half of it was wetlands? I'd like to find out where that is and whether that's true. You know, if you got industrial area that's full of wetlands, so is it that hard to figure out?
Well, that one is pretty well documented.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
So,
Is that the rumor?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
the only thing we've heard was from the ones that, the proponents that said it.
There's on that property in particular, there's a creek running through it, and with no buffers, and there's a wetland that some consultants say is a wetland, some consultants say is not a wetland. So it's
Maybe it shouldn't be industrial land then.
well, most of the site is usable.
And they're actually in the design phase on that property right now. They've got an engineer over in Mount Vernon working on that project for them to try to locate somewhere in the range of anywhere from 250 to 1.2 million square feet of growth space. So they're looking at 5-story structures that would go on that
So it's the
site.
same outfit looking at it again?
Yep.
It also makes me wonder, they say one thing, then they come back and you plan on using it, so
Well, there's some
what are we to
issues.
believe?
The issue with the site, though, is that we literally have Brickyard Creek bifurcating it. Excuse me. And there's some low areas. So they have some areas to work around. There's just no question about it.
So what's the maximum, I'm just curious, what's the maximum height or stories?
At 5 stories, I think is 60 feet. Yeah, so once we got the ladder truck, we increased the height limitations.
Oh, I see.
Not sure we entirely imagined 5-story grow-ops or production facilities, excuse me. But that's what they're looking at.
And is that, why we got time, is that in, even multifamily areas?
The 5 stories?
Yeah.
I don't think we raised that height limit in the R15, did we?
Not in the R15, but in the mixed commercial and industrial.
And the CBD.
Yeah, okay,
CBD
good.
too, probably, yeah.
Probably in the CBD.
Yeah, so you could have some apartment. You could have 3 floors of apartments above floor office and commercial or something of that nature in the village type area.
And we have talked about the issue of pyramiding it or setbacks because of the effect of the neighbors never seeing the sun. Mm-hmm. And I hope we get ahead of the curve if this ever does happen. And see.
We talked about that in the Planning Commission 10 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if we've ever done anything. Problem is we talk about it and then something comes and then people never see the sun maybe. Who knows? Something to think about.
You might be able to get a drone with a big light.
Oh, God, don't bring
and
the drone.
The drone could hover above your property
Yeah.
and illuminate you as
Yeah.
if it was the golden orb.
With the grow light.
The grow light. He calibrated the human sensitivity.
Drones. Okay, we will, there's nothing else on the agenda. There's no executive. We'll go to committee reports, and we'll start with Chief Tucker.
All right, I've got a
You
couple
can do
of
the
things
fire.
here.
You can do the fire also.
The fire department said that any money you wanted to hand out, you can send it to me and I'll give it to him, so it'll work out. The $1 million trucks or anything, I can divide that up into a lot of cars.
Only $465,000.
I got one action request. I can read this twice if you need. I don't know about asking for input on this, but it's an out-of-state travel request, and I haven't ever done one of these before. But Ariel Weston's been approved.
Is this
to
late
go-
material?
What's that? Is it? I don't know.
I don't know.
It's 7:20.
But Ariel's been approved to go out-of-state travel, fully paid, to attend the Crude by Rail course training offered by the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad in Colorado from April 22nd through 24th. All expenses for this training are paid for by Burlington Northern, with the exception of missed work hours. And this will be something that Chief Olson has requested, and it falls within exactly what we want her to do. So we're recommending that she be approved of this one, to bring it to council's attention just for approval of her going out of state and being paid. We can afford to lose her for the 3 days that she's going to be gone. She's already started working for us full time at the records, but
So you'll have David come back?
no.
Huh?
He's got to have his month off, so
okay.
we need a break. I mean, he needs a break. But I guess just asking for approval from council. I don't know if I have to ask for a motion.
Yeah, so just a motion to authorize out-of-state travel for Ariel Weston.
Mayor, I make a motion to authorize travel to Colorado for Ariel. Oil tanker seminar for Ariel Weston.
I second that.
Okay, there's
Going by train, or is she flying?
I think she's going to jump on a train and do hobo style.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Limley, a second by who over here?
Brendan.
Councilmember Kinzer, to approve the out-of-state travel by Ariel Weston for the oil tanker study or whatever. Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Pass unanimous.
All right, thank you. Just a couple more things. Our first two guys in the academy, they're into their second week, doing well. We're getting memos back about what they've been trained on. They're excited. They haven't been having to do too many push-ups yet, but they're working hard in there. Katie's been working with us for the last week. She starts the academy next week. She's in the class right after the two young men we got going down there. Very energetic. I think everybody's really liking Katie, and she's kind of exciting to have around. She's like a puppy, wanting to just do everything and stick her nose in everything. We have to tell her to stay in the office and do stuff. But she's going to be a really good fit for us. Receptionist testing has gone well. We partnered up with the college to do some of our testing for our front office reception. We had 4 or 5 candidates. I don't know how many it's finally turned out that passed all the testing, but we're going to do oral boards for them on Friday, as well as do oral boards for a lateral officer position for me. So we're looking at getting 2 people hired off of tests on Friday. We did get a really good lateral officer applicant from Whatcom County, experienced officer, and we're hoping that that'll give us enough bodies to draw from, and so I can get an active civil service list to hire one off of. So that's coming up here. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks I'll have another officer hired. And David Welch is officially retiring on the 31st. We're wishing him well, and he's going to take off and be a full-time grandpa. And let's see, I think the last thing is once David's gone and Ariel gets back from training, and we've had a little bit of time to get her prepped or set into her position. We're going to do a pretty comprehensive audit of our evidence and just anything we have stored for evidence-wise or for safekeeping. We're going to go through all that and make sure everything's accounted for and figured out and disposed of as needed. So we have a lot of stuff going on. The next couple of months are going to be pretty busy.
I got a question, and just out of my interest, and not written at Sedro-Woolley, but for police. I've read where nowadays, like in Tennessee and a few places, they're hiring officers that are not U.S. citizens. Have you been hearing, I mean, what do you think of stuff like that?
Oh, you know, there's a fairly stringent background check that you've got to go through, and really we would have a bit of problem with anybody that would violate any sort of laws. We had Matt Vollins, for example, he was born in Canada to U.S. citizens, so he had dual citizenship. We actually had to jump through quite a few hoops and purchase his birth records from Canada and to make sure all that's straightened out. You know, I've got a lot of really good citizens that want to be candidates.
That's what I thought when you got 92 million people in the United States not working.
Yeah.
You'd think you could find citizens that were, and these are, all you had to have was a green card in Tennessee. So
Why would they even do that?
Yeah, we honestly don't see a whole lot of minority population applying, and I honestly don't know why. We test on the same website as everybody else does. It may not be a big draw for somebody to come to Sedro-Woolley and not want to come, but we get plenty of applicants. Now, what I'm anticipating, if one young lady from Whatcom County, if she turns into a good applicant, I could have 4 female officers working for me by the end of the year. And no other agency has that many.
Wouldn't that equal the rest of the county?
Pretty much so, yeah. I don't think county's got much more than that in their whole contingent. And look forward to that. Every one of them's got some really good skills to offer. So.
You mean ratio-wise that would be the same as the county, or?
Oh, no, pretty much there's probably only 4 or 5 females working in the entire county outside of Sedro-Woolley, and I already have Heather and Rhonda and now Katie, and then if everything works out or if Angela works out, that'll be 4. And there's probably maybe 5 or 6 in the entire county, female officers, and then we'll have 4 and 5 or 6 others. So.
Wow.
Hey, John.
Well, thank you for taking care of the billable lands analysis professional services agreement. That's about all I got for you tonight. Thanks.
Mark?
I attended the Northern States meeting today. It was quite interesting. First time I'd met the team from Mall Foster. Jana was there representing the city and myself, and they've selected TSI, Victor Saleman, whose name you've heard before in discussions with our DEA design projects. He's now a principal with TSI. He'll be doing the transportation plan. And Ross Widener, who's done almost all of our environmental work, will be doing their environmental for that. They were both recommendations that the city made, and they did put them on their staff, which we think is going to be a very, very important part because of the timeline they're looking at. By June 30th, they need to have kind of the first cut at this thing done. That was, I believe, Janeke's deadline for making their decision. So it's really important to have people that know how to make this work, and both of those are top drawer that way. The SR20 project, we're just about closed out on that. You'll be seeing a final approval memorandum probably in another 2 council meetings. I'm waiting on 1 bill from DOT. Everything's pretty well resolved, though. I did finally, after almost 2.5 years, receive the access right-of-way map from DOT. Got that yesterday. I'm assuming the deeds will follow, and so we've built all the project, and maybe we'll actually own the right-of-way now, so that'll be a good thing. I'm heavily involved now in some planning efforts, working with John on the comprehensive plan elements. And one thing that I have to have done by the middle of next year is a transportation plan update. TSI, we are looking at using them to do ours because it kind of fits very integrally with the sub-area plan that they'll be doing as part of the Northern States project. So I'd normally go through a consultant selection process, but in this case it doesn't really make any sense to use anybody else. My other choice would have been Transpo Group, who did our 2005 plan and did the work to assist me in updating the rates back in 2013. They'll still be involved. I will still be getting some support from them as we do the plan update to revisit the rates again, as I said we would do this year. So you'll be hearing more on that topic in subsequent reports that I make. Two of our council members, Councilmember Corgay and Councilmember Wagner, attended the webinar yesterday, I believe it was, for LID code update. I think you were all invited to that. You've heard me talk about that a couple of times, but we have a deadline also in 2016 to have updated all of our codes and our standards to implement the new low-impact development requirements of the municipal stormwater standards that the state now has in place. It's a requirement of our stormwater permit, and so I'm sure Councilmember Corgay can speak a little bit more to that if she was able to stay awake through the whole thing. Anyway. Katie Isingson will be here tomorrow meeting with Patsy and I to begin the process of doing the sewer rate outlook and the capacity analysis that Council has requested, and so that process is starting. And we received the channelization plan, which is kind of the first document that we needed to go forward to DOT with on the Jameson project. That was submitted to DOT today, and I'm meeting with their engineering staff on Friday to discuss that and make sure we're still going in the right direction on that, and full design will follow. And finally, Council of Governments did approve the revision of the SR20 or SR20 Cascade Trail project from the south side to the north side, as Council approved at the last meeting. So I'll be writing the prospectus and agreement and bringing that to you in the next couple of Council sessions for your approval so that we can move forward with the design phase. And the last thing I just wanted to bring up is at your next work session, you'll have a preliminary look at the every other week solid waste pickup program. I believe Leo is going to prepare a survey document that will go to all the current citizens that are participating in that program over in Talcott and Brickyard area, and then we also have, of course, the Carter area annexation involved in that as well. And then the following work session, we're planning to bring the actual recommendation to you on whether to proceed or not, as we're running out of time. I'm sure Aaron will give you more information on that. That's all I had.
Aaron? In your packet, there's a settlement agreement between the city and the Peters family for 219 Laurel. Unless you have any questions that might necessitate an executive session, we're looking for a motion to approve that settlement agreement tonight so we can get that signed and move on.
I didn't see much to argue about.
It's consistent with the direction that the council gave me in prior executive session.
I'll move to approve the settlement agreement on Laurel Street with the Peters.
Yeah. Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Councilmember Cornegay, a second by Councilmember Limley to approve the Laurel agreement with Peters. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay, passes.
Thought we might have gone for the record tonight, but we didn't make it.
You're not going to get the record. That'll never get. 707?
Yeah.
That'll never get. Pass it.
Come in past the 10 calendar and walk out.
That was that snowstorm.
No. Do I have anything? No.
Brenda?
Nothing tonight? Oh, yeah. Everybody get your chimneys inspected. We had a good fire, so it was just kind of a reminder that everybody should check your chimneys.
Yeah, but sometimes you had it checked and it still happened.
We had it checked, but if we had it checked again, it would
Well,
see.
how many times can you, yeah. You did it
I've had
within a
chimney
year.
fire. Yeah, I had a chimney fire after I had it checked, actually, and he gave me some misinformation, and actually, the insurance company didn't want to do their share as what it was, so I had my own guy, which of course I had to pay out of my own pocket, give me completely different information, which was more accurate, so, yeah.
Be vigilant about it.
And burn dry wood.
Yep, dry wood.
Kevin?
I was just going to say, last weekend I had my annual cheerleader event for Skagit County, and I also invited the Sedro-Woolley dance team, and they did an excellent job. So next year I'll invite some more dance teams because Sedro-Woolley did good.
The skate competition, is that the first Saturday in September?
No, this is, the skate?
Yeah.
Second Saturday.
Second Saturday.
Yeah. We had a little gathering today working on it.
All right, I had a phone call about that, and I couldn't remember.
That's the same weekend as Founder's Day?
No.
It's whatever you were doing that you quit doing. It's that same weekend.
That's the car.
Your gunfight.
But there's still Founder's Day. There's still the car show and things
Yeah.
on that Sunday.
I thought, yeah.
That's always all.
Second Saturday.
It's the same Founder's Day weekend. They're not doing the gunfight thing, but they're still doing
Oh,
things.
okay.
There's still the car show on Sunday.
Yeah.
I would still love to do the gunfight thing.
What?
Go ahead.
I know, I've been told. The gunfight thing. 101 years. Are you done?
I'm done.
Oh, I was going to talk about the training a little bit, and yes, I did stay awake. It was pretty boring, but it was well put together, and it seems like there was a lot of pressure on small towns to get this stuff done. What was it, December 2016? And I liked one idea they had, which was, I don't remember what they called them. Is it SWAV? It's like swall or something, like the grassy areas that would collect
Well, swales.
swales. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like that idea a lot, and that seems doable and easy and pretty like you could do that pretty reasonably.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I just didn't. I just found it overwhelming.
It's been pretty overwhelming for staff as well to consider all the things that we have to do. One of the hidden costs of this thing is low-impact development is a good idea, and it should be used where you can, because sometimes it reduces your costs, but sometimes it's just not advisable, and it forces us to use some techniques that aren't necessarily the best in our interest, one of which is pervious pavement. The school district used that on the new Cascade Middle School in all of their parking lot, concrete. But it is very sensitive to maintenance. You do have to vacuum it at a fair frequency. If you don't do that, it stops working. And so we're responsible for not just using it where we can and maintaining our own stuff, but in development projects that choose to use that technique to meet the requirements, we then have to monitor them on a yearly basis forever. And you can imagine if driveways go in, many of those, which I anticipate they will, that becomes our responsibility to watch them. So that's the problem, but it is what it is, and yeah.
Well, they put that impervious pavement on FNS Grade Road.
Yeah, and it stopped working pretty well, yeah.
It does or doesn't work?
It no longer works, no.
Well, I could have told you that before, because when you started talking about what you had to do to maintain it, that's when I was on the planning commission. I'm going, they ain't never going to do that. And then it cost an additional $180,000 to do it.
Yeah.
And then they left the road tore up for 9 months while they were waiting for it.
Yeah, and again, you have to have the specialized equipment to do it, and we don't own it, so you're just out of luck if you don't.
Well, I think we did that kind of for a test run.
Yeah, it was the first, at the time they said it was the first one in the state.
Yeah.
So Sedro-Woolley's so rich, they were doing
I think it was
experimentation.
before you got here, Mark.
It was.
It was. Yeah, they also did some pervious concrete sidewalk on Talcott Street.
But it was too.
Pretty rough looking stuff.
Down there by Central School?
Yeah, maybe in this.
This looks like somebody kind of hand did it.
It's exactly what it looks like. You wouldn't want to fall down on that sidewalk.
It's very rough and jaggedy, and yeah, you could catch your toe on it pretty easily.
I was sure it was a home job until somebody pointed out it was our test project.
Well, they've gotten better at that. You can look at the parking lot at Cascade.
That's
It's pretty
nice
decent
looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, the parking lot is nice looking, but I did hear, I think it was Keith that actually said while we were in that meeting that it'll clog up pretty easily, and I don't know how long that takes for that to happen, but it just sounds like a pain.
Well, the key is probably a $250,000 Vector truck that vacuums.
Mm-hmm.
You know, which, like Mark said, we don't have one. Our vac truck's now, only about 5 years old?
Our Vector. Yeah, well, it's the sweeper.
The sweeper, that's what I was thinking.
Our sweeper's not even that old. It's like 3 years old.
3 years. That's a 15-year vehicle? See, we're 12 years away from needing a vehicle replacement that could do that. So.
Okay, need a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'm done. First by Councilmember Lemon, second by Councilmember Loy. All those in favor, stand. We're out here. Thanks for coming, Ann. We wouldn't have even here.
I know, right? When I first ran over there.
That's amazing.
To go get a steak dinner.
We have some regulars now. I'm kind of worried about them.
Yeah, we had fire in between our bricks and our pipe.
Yeah, hopefully Friday we can. I run my business.
And now they, so one thing about my technique that I just remembered was
Your thing's
that
going.
it would go up into the wall and then
That's what mine does too.
and every time it turns, it cools down. So I have to get my chimney completely redone to where it goes straight up out. They just built a whole new chimney. They didn't build it, they just put it up.
Yeah, that's what I think they're going to have to do to mine. But I have a two-story house.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're going to do a two-story house. What do? They have to run right through the middle of
And
the
is the
bedroom.
insurance company okay for them to do that?
Yeah.
Mine would not.
Oh,
They're
man.
paying for cleaning every square inch of the
I'm not putting that on before I put my coat on.
smoke, creosote, smoke damage.
I guess I shouldn't come to the meetings drunk.
Overwhelming all that they're going to do. And they're telling me all this stuff that they're going to do. And I'm like, are you kidding me? You're going to do all that?
Oh, yeah.
Covered under insurance?
2.5 weeks ago.
Farmers. And they're taking all the clothes away.
Yesterday I did Burlington, Sedro-Woolley beat Burlington.
That's awesome. I'm trying to get my
Must have been the damn umpire.
off all of the moss off my roof so I can get, I only have coverage through my mortgage company. It pays for that structure itself. It's like the forced insurance.
Yeah.
And trying to get it over to, but I had to clean the roof off first.
Yeah.
And of course it started raining as soon as I put the stuff up there to
Really
clean
enjoying the new boss.
it off. And I'll probably have to do that again.
Yesterday was pretty cool.
But farmers, because our local farmers, they're belong to the chamber, and they've been wonderful. They're really good.
I love farmers.
Mine was horrible. My guys were horrible.
I've had them for